Hi, I'm Mike Trainer, and welcome to Avon Biology Research Review. Today's topic is breast cancer. Many of you have probably already heard of breast cancer. In fact, recently in the news, Angelina Jolie just had a mastectomy because she has a genetic history of it. Breast cancer is uncontrolled cell growth in one of the various breast tissues. Although capable of occurring in both men and women, it is 10 times as likely to be discovered in women. Furthermore, it is 100 times as deadly in women as it is in men. Today we're consulting Yashasvini Ramesh on the topic of breast cancer.
Hi Mike, it's good to finally be here.
Yash, how deadly is breast cancer?
I'm glad you asked, Mike. So far in 2014, there have been 232,670 new cases of breast cancer. Alarming, right? What's more, there have already been 40,000 deaths this year. In fact, breast cancer itself is 14% of all cancer cases worldwide. However, the number of patients who have survived for 5 years after their initial diagnosis is 89.2%. This is a very promising number for the future of our cancer patients. This graph here shows the percent of cases by stage. 61% is localized, 32% is regional, 5% is distant, and 2% is unknown. The localized stage means it's confined to a primary site. The regional stage means it's spread to the regional lymph nodes. The distant stage means the cancer has metastasized. And unknown simply means it's unstaged. The following graph shows the percentage of cancer patients who have been diagnosed by each stage. Clearly, you can see that the localized stage has the highest survival rate with 98.5%. Following that is regional stage, then unstaged, and finally distant. It is imperative we focus our attention on the distant stage of breast cancer.
Yash, what are some current methods used to combat breast cancer?
Sure. Currently, the main treatments for breast cancer are surgery, radiation therapy, hormone therapy, chemotherapy, bone-directed therapy, and targeted therapy.
Can you please elaborate on those?
There are two types of breast cancer surgery. One is a breast-conserving surgery, and the other is a breast-removing surgery. There are two types of breast-conserving surgery. The first one, called a lumpectomy, removes the actual lump and the surrounding marginal tissue. This requires radiation therapy afterwards, and is usually preferred for patients with a smaller tumor that is more restricted to one area. The second type is called a quadratectomy, which, like the prefix quad suggests, removes roughly a quarter of all the breast tissue. This also requires radiation therapy afterwards. A mastectomy, however, removes the entire breast tissue. A simple mastectomy involves a surgeon to remove the entire breast, including the nipple, but leaving alone the underarm lymph nodes and the muscle tissues. A skin-conserving mastectomy, however, leaves the nipples and the actual skin over the breast intact. Other types, like radial mastectomies, are not widely practiced anymore due to the fact that they're not very effective. Radial mastectomies remove the entire breast tissue along with the lymph nodes and the underlying muscle tissues. However, the modified radial mastectomy, which is practiced much more in today's contemporary society, only removes the lymph nodes of the underarm. Women in their early stage of cancer are allowed to decide whether to get a mastectomy or breast-conserving surgery. The downside to getting a breast-conserving surgery is that you must have radiation therapy afterwards. This is not very effective for pregnant women or women with serious connective tissue issues. Radiation therapy is simply treatment that uses high-energy rays or particles that destroy cancer cells. There are two types of radiation therapies: external radiation therapy and internal radiation therapy. External radiation therapy is the most common type of radiation therapy. Simply put, this type of treatment uses radiation beams from an external machine into the body to kill the cancer cells. Internal radiation, or called brachytherapy, involves putting radioactive seeds or pellets into the breast tissue next to the cancer site. This is more oftenly used for cancer patients who have recently had breast-conserving surgery. Chemotherapy is the use of cancer-killing drugs that are either given intravenously or by mouth. These drugs then flow through the bloodstream and target the affected areas. Chemotherapy is usually used in cycles, after which there is a radiation period. Chemo also lasts for a few months. Hormone therapy is an adjuvant treatment, which means it's used after surgery. A woman's ovaries produce the most amount of estrogen in her body. Estrogen can promote the growth of cancer that is hormone receptor positive. Hormone therapy, on the other hand, reduces the amount of estrogen produced. Overall, this lowers the risk for cancer. Targeted therapy is the use of targeted drugs on a certain cancer site. This usually has less severe side effects than chemotherapy. As researchers realized that changes and mutations in genes cause cancer, they have developed more targeted drugs to these specific changes. The field of targeted therapy looks very promising as more and more information about gene changes and the structure of our genome emerges. As cancer spreads to the bones, it can cause pain, fractures, and other problems to emerge in the bones. Bone-directed therapy utilizes drugs like bisphosphonates to ease the pain and strengthen the bones.
In the future, is there hope for people who may be susceptible to contracting breast cancer? Are there any up-and-coming new treatments for treating breast cancer, and how do they differ from current treatments?
Absolutely. As mentioned before, targeted drug therapy specializes on certain types of breast cancer in certain areas of the body. In addition, studies are currently looking for the effects of diet and exercise on the risk of breast cancer. Scientists are also further developing research on both BRCA1 and BRCA2 germline mutations, which yield approximately a 40 to 80% risk of breast cancer. Scientists have also begun to explore how gene variations affect the growth of cell cancer. Even though each variant only accounts for 10 or 20% of effect on the cancer growth, combined, these have substantial values. Retinoids, or drugs relating to vitamin A, are also being explored in their relation to curing breast cancer. Most importantly, scientists are looking for a way to prevent people from contracting breast cancer in the future. Most recently, scientists have developed a keen interest on the effect of environmental factors on the development of breast cancer. I truly believe that one day, even in this great and diverse field, we will eventually find a cure for breast cancer.
If you saw our episode from last week, we discussed genetic engineering. How might advances in genetic engineering affect the cure for breast cancer?
In a laboratory test for breast cancer, advances in genetic engineering have allowed for a more precise genetic function in genetically engineered mice. Many of these approaches utilize the Whey acidic protein, WAP, or the mouse mammary tumor virus, the MMTV promoters. This specific model explores how the activation of certain genes actually has detrimental effects on the health and survival of many related animals, such as humans.
Thank you, Dr. Ramesh, for providing insight into today's topic.
The pleasure is all mine, Mr. Truman.
Thank you for watching. If this is a cause that interests you, please donate through an organization such as the Susan G. Komen for the Cure Foundation. Thank you for watching. Until next time, I'm Mike Trayman.